Please welcome to the stage Julie Vita, the Vice President of Defense Sector Growth at Mantech.
1, 2, thank you for that. Please finish your lunch or your cookie or your whatever you're having, and thanks for attending today and for your attention. I'm just going to talk for about 15 minutes, and I'm going to start with the sea story. So there I was. Now, this is the point. If I were a fighter pilot, I would be doing something like this, shooting down my watch. But I was a helicopter pilot, and we don't like to shoot down our watch. So there I was, helicopter pilot in the Persian Gulf, a hot summer some years ago. And on this day, the aircraft carrier I was assigned to, USS Nimitz. Any Nimitz sailors here? Oh, okay. USS Nimitz was transiting into the Persian Gulf through the Straits of Hormuz. Carrier goes in, takes a bunch of ships with it, stays there for a couple months, leaves. That's the idea. That's how it's supposed to work. The only aircraft that are flying the day that the carrier goes into the strait are the helicopters. And the idea is to be fully armed and just kind of fly around, making sure that bad guys in the area, and there's a lot of them, they see that there are eyes and ears out there and don't get any crazy ideas about getting too close to the carrier or the ships. Basically, it's a pretty boring daytime routine mission. And this day was just like that. It was pretty routine, it was hot, we were starting to think about, oh my gosh, this is gonna suck, we're gonna be here for a couple months, and we miss our families. And for me, I was a new mom. I had a baby at home, was with his dad, and during that deployment, I had already missed his first steps, I had already missed his first words, I was gonna miss his first birthday, so all of this is in my mind. And we're humming along, and we're flying lazy circles, and we're keeping the carrier safe until two things happened that are made that day the worst day of my life. And those two things were this. We started to see on the horizon this Iranian fast patrol boat coming at us. How did we know it was Iranian? Waving a big red, white, and green IRGCN flag. So we're like, oh, that was unexpected, because it wasn't part of our intel brief. So we start to turn away. I'm in the right seat, by the way. Right seat pilot, left seat pilot. We start to turn away from this boat. And when we just to gain some distance and figure out what's going on. When we do that, thing two happens. I hear from the back of the aircraft, chaff, chaff, chaff. And chaff is this bloom of kind of aluminum foil strips that come out of the side of the aircraft to be a decoy for any missiles that might be coming. Now, this was not planned. And I don't know how it happened, but it was happening in my aircraft. So the aircrew were kind of freaking out in the back. I'm freaking out in the front. My co-pilot's trying to figure out what's going on. It's kind of chaos. It's a little scary. It's a lot scary, quite frankly. Because the last look I got at the Iranians before we turned left towards the aircraft carrier and a little bit of safety was an RPG coming out on the shoulder of one of these guys on the boat. And it was like, okay, the crap's really gone down. So there we go. We speed up. We head toward the carrier. We get in touch with the carrier. They're talking to the boat. Everything is fine. We land safely. I'm here to talk about it today. The reason I tell this story is because 19 years later-ish, it's still relevant, unfortunately. It's still relevant because aviators, sailors, Marines, airmen, guardsmen often don't have the information they need in the cockpit. They often don't have the technology they need in the cockpit or on the ship or in the tank or on the ground or in the sub or whatever it is. Often. Always, I would say. Although I had somebody tell me once you should always or never say anything. So I'm telling this story because it's relevant to not just operations in the Gulf. We've been doing that forever. But I want to talk about Indo-PACOM. It's hard to imagine if you're not looking at a map, and I apologize, I forgot to send the slide and there's no map. But imagine, the Persian Gulf is kind of like this size. I know you can't see me in the back, but this is small. And Indo-PACOM is like this, right? You're familiar. Pacific Ocean, South China Sea, all of that. All the countries there that maybe they're allies of ours, maybe they aren't. Maybe we're building new relationships. There's a lot of very difficult geopolitics that are happening there now. And our warriors are out there in a lot of the same situation that I was back then. Don't have the right information, can't share it, have all these requirements and all these barriers in place to keep them from sharing information. Outdated technology, an old IT backbone that doesn't allow them to be leveraging all the big data and the analytics and the AI and the machine learning and the quantum and all this stuff that you've been hearing about today and that we hear about in the news every day. They're operating often based on old training, old exercise scenarios that they maybe practiced 3 months before they went into the Gulf or whenever they operated forward. The training environment that they're working with or that they're using to get smart and to build their skills in the operations are outdated. They aren't relevant today. Now I can't remember what it is. The new modern training environments and training tools that we have out there. I come from Mantech. Mantech is building some of these solutions with some of our technology partners. Maybe some of you are in the room. And we're readjusting and adapting them every day because the world is changing every day. And so this new kind of training environment is what we all need to be paying attention to and investing in and partnering. If you're on the government side, partner with industry. If you're on the industry side, partner more with the government and find out what they need so that we can take advantage of all this big data, AI-enabled, real-time adjustment to our training scenarios. Real quick, I'm going to just bring up a quote of one of my heroes, happens to be a naval hero. That's Admiral Chester Nimitz. Just so happens I was on the Nimitz, but I always was a fan of Admiral Nimitz. And in about 1960, Admiral Nimitz was speaking at the U.S. Naval War College, and he was talking about the war with Japan. And I'm going to paraphrase, but basically what Admiral Nimitz was saying was, most of what happened in the War of Japan was not a surprise to the U.S. because we had trained and reenacted almost everything that we saw in the war, after Pearl Harbor, against Japan, until the end of the war, when the kamikazes started. He said, we did not visualize that. So what's happening today, and what happened to me those many years ago, was that I did not ever visualize that some Iranian boat would come and surprise us and we wouldn't know about it. I would never have visualized that there was a mechanical malfunction on my aircraft that caused the chaff to explode, which is exactly what happened. No human being made a mistake in the cockpit. There was a mechanical malfunction. I didn't visualize that, and we didn't visualize that. And we didn't have the training to kind of know in the moment, oh, we've seen this before. We know how to react to this. So what Admiral Chester Nimitz was saying about not being able to visualize is where this new training kind of technology that we have is coming in. It's giving sailors and Marines and airmen an opportunity to visualize more, things that we don't even think about, we don't even dream could possibly be happening, that then happen. Think about October 7th. Think about the attacks against the Jews. Think about the Houthi aggression in the Persian Gulf and commercial ships being fired at with their missiles. U.S. ships shooting down missiles coming from the Houthis to commercial ships. We didn't visualize that. The sailors on those ships that are out there, they've had to adjust. They've had to figure out how to maneuver in that space because their I wasn't there, but I will bet my next paycheck that their pre-deployment workups did not include that. They did not include the Houthis shooting commercial ships. But here we are. So this new type of training environment is what we need to be delivering to the fleet, to the Army, to the Marines, to everywhere today. Because it allows for that training environment to be updated in almost real time. Synthetic data sources coming in to create some simulated scenario, but then also bringing in operational data. What's actually happening in the ship's engineering, in the engineering plant? What's actually happening on those commercial ships in the area that, they're getting jammed or whatever? Melding the synthetic data with the operational data is where our training environments need to be today in order to make our military forces successful in the Indo-PACOM theater. Because I know we've talked about it today, we hear about it, we know about it all the time. Rise of China, increased aggression from Russia, hypersonic weapons. Those are enough to keep you up at night. People say, what keeps you up at night? It certainly does for me. And being able to adjust and provide agile training scenarios is what we all need to be doing to give our sailors and our warfighters out there on the tip of the spear a fighting chance for maintaining, for gaining and maintaining superiority in Indo-PACOM, because things are just happening too fast. So if you can play a role in that, you need to do that. Learn about it, talk to the companies that build those solutions, participate, because we can't control, the old saying, you can't control what other people do to you, but you can control how you react to it, mom and dad advice. I mean, that's kind of where we are. We can't control the terrorists around the world and what they're going to do next. Sometimes we know about it ahead of time, but a lot of times we don't. We can't control that, but we can give our warfighters the tools that they need to react, to be able to have some kind of muscle memory, some kind of habit that they've seen this before, they've done this before. And even if it's not perfect, it can give our warfighters a sense of confidence, a sense of, I kind of seen this before, and I have the 90% solution to how to fight against it. Because otherwise, they're just often making stuff up. They're making stuff up to survive on all of our behalf. So that's my plea, is to just ask that you pay attention to this LVC, this training kind of, I wish I could remember the acronym, but I'm just gonna be honest. I'm nervous and I can't. LVC is what it's called. We all need to be playing a role in that. It's really the only way we're gonna maintain superiority, if not power projection in the Indo-PACOM theater. And with that, I'm gonna give you a couple minutes back to take another sip of your water, eat another cookie, and thank you very much for your attention.